Ava never expected the first punch to come on a Tuesday afternoon in the middle of their immaculate penthouse overlooking Sydney Harbour with sunlight pouring through the windows like nothing bad could ever happen there. She had spent the morning preparing the nursery, folding tiny onesies and placing plush koalas along the crib, imagining the peaceful life she believed she and Liam were building. But when she walked into the living room holding a sonogram photo she wanted to frame, she found Liam leaning against a marble counter with his phone pressed to his ear, whispering the name she feared most, Charlotte. He didn't notice Avera at first. He was too busy laughing, too busy telling Charlotte that he couldn't wait to see her that night, too busy saying the kind of things a husband should only ever say to his wife. When he finally turned and saw Ava standing there, his expression changed from charm to annoyance in a single breath. "You're eavesdropping again," he muttered, brushing past her as if she were an obstacle instead of his pregnant wife. Ava stepped forward carefully, one hand instinctively covering her belly. "Liam, are you really going out with her again?" she whispered. Her voice was soft, vulnerable, full of months of swallowed pain. And then it happened. He turned sharply, eyes cold, jaw tight, and slapped her so hard her world blurred. The sonogram photo slipped from her fingers, drifting to the polished floor like a fallen leaf. Ava staggered, touching her cheek in shock. Liam didn't apologize. He didn't flinch. He simply said, "You're being dramatic. You're stressing me out, and I told you I have a dinner tonight." "It's important for Charlotte." Ava stared at him, her breath trembling. "I'm 8 months pregnant," she whispered. "I needed you today." Liam rolled his eyes and grabbed his keys. "You need too much," he said. "Charlotte doesn't." And then he walked out, leaving the door half open as a coaster wind swept into the room, chilling her skin and her heart. Ava stood completely still for a few seconds, letting the pain settle. The baby kicked hard as if sensing her distress. She pressed her hand to her belly and whispered, "Mommy's okay." "I'm okay." Even though she didn't believe it, she looked at the sonogram on the floor, picked it up with shaking hands, and felt something inside her crack open. She had forgiven Liam for messages, for suspicious work trips to the Gold Coast, for missing doctor appointments, for coming home drunk at midnight smelling like a perfume she didn't own, but physical pain. This was different. This was a line crossed so deeply she felt it burn in her bones. Ava grabbed her bag, her phone, and her car keys. She didn't even know where she was driving until she saw the massive palm trees and modern white columns of the Gold Coast mansion Liam had been hosting corporate retreats in. The mansion glowed under the sunset, filled with music, laughter, clinking glasses, and people dressed far too expensively for a business retreat. Ava walked through the side entrance quietly, her heart pounding, her breath shallow. She climbed the stairs toward the balcony when she heard Charlotte's voice. Light, arrogant, cruel. Liam, she's pathetic. Still trying to hold on to you like she's not seconds away from popping out a baby. Honestly, it's embarrassing. Ava's grip tightened on the railing. She took a shaky breath and stepped onto the balcony. The music dimmed just enough for the crowd to notice her. Charlotte toned, her smile stretching slowly like a knife. "Oh, look," she announced loudly. "The wife made it." How adorable. People shifted, whispering, watching like predators sensing weakness. Ava stood there, small, exhausted, hurt with a loose sweater barely hiding her swollen belly. She wished she had stayed home. She wished she hadn't come, but she had nowhere else to go. Liam stepped beside Charlotte, placing a hand on her back publicly, confidently, like Ava was no longer part of his life. "Ava," he said sharply, "you're making a scene." "I just wanted to talk to my husband," she whispered. Charlotte laughed. "Your husband?" "Sweetheart, he hasn't acted like your husband in months." She walked right up to Ava, heels clicking dangerously close. Then, with a wicked grin, Charlotte placed a hand on Ava's stomach. "Tell me," she said loudly, "are you sure the baby's even his?" The crowd gasped. Ava stepped back in horror, but Charlotte grabbed her wrist and yanked her forward roughly. A sharp, hot pain shot through Ava's abdomen. She cried out, nearly falling. "Stop," she whispered, clutching her belly. "Please stop." Charlotte stepped back and rolled her eyes. Drama, it's always drama with pregnant women. But the pain didn't stop. It grew. Phoo, Ava looked down, trembling. Liquid was running down her leg. Her knees weakened, her vision dimmed. Someone whispered, "I think her water broke." Another voice said, "She needs an ambulance." Liam stood frozen, pale. "Ava, get up," he said like she was embarrassing him. Ava tried. She truly tried, but her legs gave out and she collapsed onto the cold tiles. People backed away. No one helped her. No one touched her. But she heard Charlotte's voice one last time, cold, irritated. "For God's sake, Liam, control your wife." Everything went black. Ava woke hours later in a private hospital in Brisbane. The room felt too bright, too sterile. A nurse stood beside her, adjusting the four. "Your baby is stable," the nurse said softly, "but you experienced severe stress trauma." "We are keeping you under observation." Ava's lips parted. Is Liam here?" The nurse hesitated. Ava already knew the answer. He stepped out, she said gently. "But your father is on his way." Ava's heart dropped. Her father, Jonathan Hayes, CEO of Hayes International Mining, one of the most feared, powerful businessmen in Australia, a man with a reputation for destroying anyone who harmed what was his. Ava shook her head weakly. "Please don't tell him everything." But it was too late. The door opened. Jonathan Hayes walked in, gray, she immaculate, jaw clenched, eyes burning with a fury. Ava had never seen him direct at another human being. He stopped at a bedside. He looked at the bruise on her cheek. Then then her trembling hands holding her belly. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and deadly. "Who did this to you?" Ava swallowed hard, her eyes filled instantly. She didn't want to say the name. She didn't want her father to become a monster on her behalf. But the truth slipped out anyway. Jonathan didn't blink, he didn't breathe. He simply toned, walked toward the door, and said in a calm, terrifying voice, "I'll handle it." Ava struggled to sit up. "Dad, please don't do anything illegal." Jonathan paused in the doorway. "Illegal?" he echoed. "Sweetheart, I don't need to break the law." He looked at her, eyes full of ice. "I am the law." And with that he stepped out, walking like a man ready to end an empire. Ava tried to breathe steadily as the door closed behind her father, but her heart thudded painfully against her ribs. Jonathan Hayes was not a man who spoke impulsively. He was methodical, strategic, and terrifyingly effective if he said he would handle it. Then somewhere, someone's life was about to collapse. Ava pressed a palm to her belly, whispering softly to combo herself and the child moving beneath her skin. She feared what Liam might face. But she feared even more what might happen if a father uncovered the full truth of the night. The slap, the humiliation, the fall, the mistress's cruelty. She didn't want violence. She didn't want revenge. She only wanted peace for her baby. Meanwhile, on the other side of the hospital, Jonathan was already on the phone. His voice was a blade, sharp, controlled, and deadly precise. "Freeze all accounts associated with my son-in-law," he said calmly as he walked through the dim corridor toward the private lobby. "I don't care whose names they are under. Family trusts, show companies, joint ventures, everything he has access to?" "Shut it down?" his assistant asked hesitantly. "Even the Gold Coast project, sir?" Jonathan stepped into the elevator, especially the Gold Coast project. By the time he reached the ground floor, 3 of Liam's credit lines were suspended, 2 contracts were under legal review, and a discreet message had been sent to every major partner Liam had ever boasted about. Jonathan's car was already waiting, black and silent, driven by a man who never spoke unless spoken to. As Jonathan settled into the back seat, he said only one thing: "Take me to him." Liam was still at the mansion, panicking. Charlotte paced around the living room, screaming at him. "Do something, this will go viral." People recorded everything. That pathetic little meltdown of his is everywhere by now. Liam sat on the edge of the couch, head in his hands, his mind spinning, his phone kept vibrating. Notifications, messages, missed call from work, press inquiries. He had tried logging into his business account an hour ago and received a cold error message, access revoked. He tried another one, same message. He had brushed it off at first. But now, as the seconds passed, dread was sinking deep into his stomach. "What if this is him?" Liam whispered. Charlotte froze. "Who?" "Her father," Liam muttered. Jonathan Hayes, the man owns half of Western Australia. Charlotte scoffed, waving her hand. Oh, please, he's just a mining CEO. Liam stared at her. You have no idea who he is. Before Charlotte could answer, the mansion security system beeped. A sleek black car had stopped outside the gates. The guard stepped forward, but the gates opened on their own. Charlotte frowned. Did you invite anyone? Liam didn't answer. He already knew. Jonathan Hayes walked through the front doors without waiting for permission. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't shout. He simply stood tall, composed, radiating the kind of ruthless power that made even the A feel heavier. Charlotte took one step back. Liam stood up slowly. Jonathan, he said, trying to sound calm. I was going to call you. You won't need to, Jonathan replied, cutting him off. You won't have access to a phone for long, Liam swallowed. I don't understand. Let's be clear, Jonathan said, stepping closer. You hurt my daughter. You humiliated her publicly. You put my grandchild at risk. And you allowed another woman to lay a hand on her. Charlotte stiffened. Excuse me. I didn't. Jonathan didn't even look at her. Speak again, he said coldly. And I'll make sure you never step foot in any corporate building on this coast again. Charlotte closed her mouth instantly. Jonathan turned back to Liam. Your accounts are frozen. Your business partnerships are suspended pending investigation. Your name is being removed from every company my team has ever linked you to. You've lost your penthouse, your cars, and your Gold Coast retreat rights. Liam's face drained of color. You can't do that, Jonathan's gaze hardened. I already have. Liam took one shaky step forward. Jonathan, please just let me explain. Explain why you hit a pregnant woman, Jonathan asked, his voice dangerously soft. Or why you let your mistress assault her in front of a crowd. Liam's breath caught. Charlotte palled. Jonathan, I swear it wasn't like that. I've seen the footage, Jonathan said. All of it. Liam's world tilted, his stomach twisted. Please, he whispered. Just give me a chance. Jonathan leaned in, his voice a whisper of pure steel. You had your chance. My daughter begged for you. She stayed loyal to you. She protected your reputation and you repaid her by breaking her spirit. Liam shook his head violently. I love her. You don't know the meaning of the word, Jonathan replied. Because if you did, she wouldn't be in a hospital bed right now with bruises on her face and fear in her voice. The room was silent. Then Jonathan said the words that shattered whatever denial Liam had left. As of today, you are legally restricted from approaching Ava or the child. You will not step within 100 meters of her. You will not contact her. You will not see her. This is non-negotiable. Liam's chest tightened. She can't do that. She didn't, Jonathan said. I did. Charlotte looked between them, pale and trembling. So what happened to me? Jonathan finally looked at her. His eyes were dead cold. You? Nothing. You were never important enough to matter. Charlotte felt the slap, even though no one touched her. Jonathan turned toward the door. Security will escort you both out of this house. It no longer belongs to either of you. Two men in black suits appeared instantly. Liam panicked as they approached. Jonathan, please don't do this, I'm begging you. Jonathan paused just once and looked over his shoulder. You should have thought about that before you raised your hand to my daughter. Then he walked away without another word. The security guards lifted Liam by the arms as Charlotte screamed at them. The door slammed shut behind Jonathan as he stepped into the night. And far away in her hospital bed, Ava whispered to her sleeping unborn child, unaware that the man who destroyed her heart was being dismantled piece by piece. Everything she had lost was being returned to her, and everything Liam had taken for granted was slipping out of his hands forever. Meanwhile, Jonathan returned to the hospital, making call after call, arranging legal protection, financial transfers, personal security, and a private birthing suite. He wasn't just avenging his daughter, he was rebuilding her world from the ashes. When he finally stepped back into Aya's room, she opened her eyes slowly. "Dad," she whispered, her voice soft and fragile. "What?" "What did you do?" Jonathan sat beside her and gently took a hand. "I made sure," he said softly, "that no one will ever hurt you again." His eyes filled with tears, not from fear, but from relief she had needed for far too long. And for the first time since the nightmare began, she felt safe. Truly safe. But the story wasn't over yet. Liam's downfall had only just begun. And her rise, her healing was about to transform her entire life. Jonathan stayed beside Ava until her breathing steadied, until the lines of fear slowly loosened from her expression. She drifted in and out of sleep, exhaustion pulling in her after hours of pain, shock, and emotional collapse. Each time her eyes flooded open, Jonathan reassured her a quiet word or gentle touch on her hand. He had always been a man feared by cities, corporations, and governments. But with his daughter, he softened in ways only she ever saw. When Ava finally fell into deeper rest, Jonathan stepped outside to the hallway. His expression hardened again the moment the door closed behind him. He pulled out his phone and spoke with the same ruthless authority that had built an empire. "I want a 24-hour security rotation on this floor. No one enters without my approval," he said, his voice quiet but lethal, and prepared a discreet press statement. "We control the narrative, not them." Meanwhile, across Brisbane, Liam and Charlotte were being escorted out of the mansion they once flaunted. Their belongings were packed into plain boxes and stacked at the gate like trash, waiting for collection. Liam stayed at the pile, humiliated and disoriented. This is insane," he muttered, running a shaking hand through his hay. "He can't just erase my life like this." "He can't." Charlotte crossed her arms, furious. "You told me he was just a mining executive." "You never said he basically owned half a coast," Liam snapped. "I didn't think he would get involved." Ava always kept him out of our marriage. Well, congratulations, Charlotte. Now he's involved. Liam stepped closer to her. Charlotte, I need you to stay with me just until this blows over. Stay with you, she cut in sharply. Liam, my career is on the line because of you. Do you know how many of my brand partners have messaged me today? They are panicking. They don't want their name attached to the scandal. Liam stared at her, stunned. I thought you cared about me. Charlotte laughed coldly. Okay, Liam, be serious. I cared about the lifestyle, the penthouse, the trips, the connections. But now she gestured to the boxes. Now you're just a man who got thrown out of his own house. Liam felt something inside him twist painfully. So you're leaving? Charlotte scoffed. Of course I'm leaving. She climbed into a ride share and slammed the door without looking back. Liam watched it go, feeling the weight of his choices crushing him. For the first time, he realized he was alone. Truly completely alone. At the hospital, hours later, Ava awoke to the sound of rain tapping against the window. The storm outside reflected the storm inside her mind. She turned her head slowly and saw her father sitting in the chair beside her, reading a report on his tablet. She watched him for a moment, studying the lines of worry around his eyes. He sensed the gaze and looked up immediately. "How are you feeling?" he asked gently. "Better?" She whispered. "The baby stable?" He reassured. Ava exhaled slowly, emotions swelling in her chest. "Dad?" "Yes, did you really take everything from him?" Jonathan didn't flinch. "I protected you." Ava looked down at her hands. "I never wanted destruction." Jonathan softened. "I know, but you also never deserved what he did to you." She nodded, tears forming. "I keep wondering if I did something wrong, if I wasn't enough." Jonathan's expression shifted instantly, filled with fierce tenderness. "Ava," he said quietly, "listen to me. You are more than enough. You are kind, loyal, gentle, and loving. The problem was never you. Some men don't know how to handle a woman like you, a woman who gives without limit. And those men, they break themselves trying to feel the emptiness inside them." Ava brushed a tear away. "I wanted our family to work." "I know, sweetheart. I wanted the baby to have a father. Your child will have everything. A home, love, safety, and one day, a man who deserves to be in their life." Ava closed her eyes, her father's words pressed into her heart, soothing wounds she hadn't even processed yet. "Rest," Jonathan said softly. "I'll handle everything else." He stood and stepped out for a moment to take another call. As soon as he left, Ava's doctor entered the room. "Ava," she said with a warm but professional smile, "we need to discuss the stress markers we found earlier." Your body is extremely fatigued, and the trauma from today has caused a strain we need to monitor for your safety and the baby's. We are recommending several days of full rest. No travel, no conflict, no emotional strain. Ava nodded. "I understand." "Your father already authorized a private suite at Carter Towers Medical Extension in Sydney," the doctor continued. "You'll be transferred as soon as you're stable for relocation. You'll have round-the-clock Kaya's breath trembled. I don't want Liam to show up. He won't. The doctor said your father ensured that. When Jonathan returned, he carried an energy Ava had seen only in boardrooms and crisis takeovers. Controlled dominance. Everything is arranged, he said. You'll leave Brisbane tomorrow morning in the helicopter. I'll be with you the entire time. Ava nodded softly, comforted by the certainty in his voice. The next morning the storm had passed. The sky was clear, blue, endless, Australian air washed clean by the night's rain. Jonathan helped his daughter into the helicopter carefully, supporting her as though she were made of something rare and irreplaceable. The rotor spun, the wind lifted, and the helicopter rose above Brisbane, carrying Ava toward a new chapter she didn't yet know she was stepping into. As a coastline passed beneath them, she rested her head against the window, her hand on her belly. She whispered to the baby, "We are okay now. I promise." But below them, in the city streets, Liam Hayes was learning what it meant to lose everything, and that his punishment was far from over. The helicopter glided smoothly along the coastline as Brisbane faded behind them, the ocean below reflecting the morning light like shifting sheets of silver. Ava watched the water with a strange mixture of peace and ache, her hand resting over the gentle curve of a belly. She had always imagined flying like this with Liam one day, celebrating milestones, escaping for weekends, dreaming of their baby's future. But that fantasy had been shattered beyond repair, replaced by a numbness she didn't yet know how to navigate. Jonathan watched her from the opposite seat, his eyes softening whenever she shifted uncomfortably. "We'll be home soon," he said gently. "You will have the best Kay, and you'll be surrounded by people who actually value you." Ann nodded, but her gaze stayed on the waves. "It still hurts," she whispered. "Everything he said, everything he did. Of course it hurts," Jonathan replied. "You build a life with him. You trusted him with your heart. Betrayal always cuts the deepest when it comes from the person you protected with your life," she swallowed. "I keep replaying it in my head." Him standing there with her watching me collapse, not caring. Jonathan tightened his jaw slightly. "That's because he never saw your worth. He saw convenience. And when Charlotte arrived, she fed his ego the way weak men like him crave. She made him feel powerful, so he let her control him." Ava looked down. "Do you think he ever loved me?" Jonathan hesitated before answering. "I think he loved the version of you that didn't require him to grow." When you became a mother-to-be, when you needed stability and commitment, he panicked. A man who cannot rise to his responsibility will always run to someone who demands less. exhaled shakily. I feel stupid. Jonathan leaned forward, his voice firm. Don't ever say that loving someone isn't stupid. Trusting someone isn't stupid. He was the one who failed miserably. The helicopter banked slightly as a skyline of Sydney appeared in the distance, glittering under the sun. Ava stated it, feeling both comfort and dread curling in her chest. Sydney had been her home, her safe place, her sanctuary. Now it felt like a reminder of everything that had fallen apart. When they landed on the rooftop of Katoa, a building Jonathan partially owned and trusted, the wind whipped around them. Jonathan stepped out first and helped Ava down slowly, holding her arm protectively. Careful, he murmured. I've got you. They moved into the private rooftop elevator, descending into the medical wing reserved for executives and their families. The moment the doors opened, a team of nurses and a private doctor were already waiting. Welcome, Miss Hayes, the doctor said warmly. Your suite is ready. We'll be monitoring you and the baby around the clock. Ava smiled politely, though exhaustion weighed heavily on her. She allowed them to guide her into a luxurious private suite, soft lighting, a king-size adjustable bed, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Sydney Harbour, and a small nursery corner already prepared. As if Jonathan had anticipated everything, she sat down carefully, her body finally relaxing into the plush mattress. Jonathan adjusted the pillows behind her with the same tendon as he used when she was a child. Do you need anything? He asked softly. Just time, she whispered. Time to breathe. Time to understand how everything changed so fast. You will have all the time you need. Jonathan stayed with her for hours, reviewing documents quietly while she rested. Every so often he glanced at her, making sure she was comfortable. When Ava finally drifted into a deep sleep, Jonathan stepped out into the lounge area and made another series of calls. But these were different. They were calculated, legal, final. Meanwhile, in a small, cheap hotel near South Bank, Liam stared blankly at the wall. His phone buzzed endlessly, but he couldn't bring himself to look at it again. Every time he tried, another notification appeared. Another frozen account, another terminated contract, another headline speculating about the scandal. Charlotte had blocked him, fled to Melbourne to salvage what remained of her influencer deals. His name was trending for all the wrong reasons. Businessman abandons pregnant wife during medical emergency. Mistress seen mocking 8-month pregnant woman. Liam Hayes investigated for domestic misconduct. Father of victim is CEO Jonathan Hayes. Liam threw the phone onto the bed and covered his face with his hands. What have I done? He whispered, voice breaking. He thought of Ava lying on the cold balcony floor. He thought of her crying, begging him to listen. He thought of the baby he had barely acknowledged. For the first time, guilt stabbed into him so sharply doubled over. "I didn't mean to hurt her," he whispered into his palms. "I didn't mean, but the reality was undeniable. He had chosen his ego, his desire, and his greed over the woman who had given him everything, and now he had nothing left." He pushed himself to his feet and looked around the tiny room. "I need to fix this," he muttered. "I need to see her." He grabbed his jacket and stormed toward the door. But the moment he stepped outside, two security personnel in black suits were waiting for him. "Mr. Hayes," one said calmly. "You've been served." They handed him a thick envelope. Liam ripped it open and scanned the first lines. His heart dropped. It was a restraining order. He was legally forbidden from contacting Aya in any way. Approaching her, calling her, messaging her, even mentioning her online could lead to immediate arrest. "No," he whispered, shaking his head. "I need to talk to her." "She's my wife?" "Not anymore," one guard replied. "As of this morning, divorce proceedings have begun." Liam's breath caught. "She wouldn't. It wasn't her," the guard clarified. "Her father initiated it on her behalf." Liam felt the ground shift under his feet. "I need to explain. I need to apologize. Please, I need her to know I'm sorry." The guards exchanged a look. "Not a pity, but a finality." "You should go back inside, Mr. Hayes," one said. "Your life has changed." "It's time you accept it." They walked away, leaving Liam alone on the pavement. He felt as if the world had closed around him, sealing him out of everything that had once mattered. Back at Carter Tower, Ava awoke from a nap to find her father quietly reading in the corner. "Gad," she whispered. Jonathan looked up immediately. "I'm here. What? What happens now?" she asked softly. "Now," Jonathan said, walking to sit beside her. "You focus on bringing your daughter into this world safely, and I'll take care of everything else." Ava closed her eyes, exhaling deeply. "I just want peace." Jonathan smoothed a hand over her hair. "And peace," he said firmly, "is exactly what you're going to have." But outside the tower, across the city, and all through the media landscape, the consequences of Liam's choices were spreading like wildfire, and his downfall was only beginning. As afternoon light poured softly through the tower's wide windows, Ava sat upright in bed, her hands gently stroking her belly in slow circles. She could feel the baby shifting, calmer now, as if sensing the safety surrounding them. The suite was peaceful, warm, and quiet, a stark contrast of the chaos that had shed her life only a day earlier. A nurse ended to check her vitals, speaking in a soothing tone, and Ava offered a small, grateful smile. But behind her calm eyes, her mind was still tangled with memories. Liam's voice, Charlotte's laugh, the cold tiles against her knees, the dizziness, the darkness. It replayed like a storm she couldn't quite escape. Jonathan re-entered the room, his expression thoughtful. He had been handling non-stop calls, legal teams, corporate advisors, private security, and public relations experts. When he walked in, he carried an energy that filled the room, firm, certain, uncheckable. You're awake, he said softly, taking the chair beside her. How are you feeling? Better? She replied. Just thinking, I know, he murmured. These things don't disappear overnight. Ava looked down. I keep wondering, why wasn't I enough for him? Jonathan's jaw tightened slightly, but he kept his voice gentle. Ava, listen to me. A man who betrays a woman during her most vulnerable moment says more about himself than about her. He chose selfishness, he chose cruelty. You didn't fail. He did. Ava blinked away tears. It still hurts. Of course it does, Jonathan said. You loved him, she nodded. I thought he loved me too, Jonathan exiled softly. Real love doesn't humiliate, it doesn't hit. It doesn't abandon you on the floor while his mistress mocks you. What you experienced wasn't love. It was manipulation and weakness disguised as affection. Ava wiped her cheeks. Do you think I'll ever feel normal again? Jonathan offered her a soft smile. Yes, because you're stronger than you realize, and soon you'll feel more free than you felt in years. Meanwhile, across Sydney, Liam wandered the streets in a haze. He barely recognized the city around him, the same city he used to dominate with confidence. Stepping in and out of high-end restaurants, private clubs, penthouses with panoramic views, now he felt like a ghost drifting through a world that no longer belonged to him. He walked past a newsstand and froze. His face was plastered across a headline. Husband abandons pregnant wife during medical emergency. Mistress laughs. He reached out with a trembling hand and picked up the paper, his chest tightening. The article mentioned AAS hospitalization and Jonathan Hayes' immediate actions. It pointed out the footage recorded at the Gold Coast party, footage that had already gone viral. Liam dropped the newspaper as if it burned him. Panic clawed at his throat. He stepped into a small alley, leaned against the wall, and pressed his fist to his forehead. What have I done? He whispered. Every lie he had told, every promise he had broken, every cruel word he had thrown at Ava, it hit him all at once, crushing him. His phone buzzed. He checked the screen. It was his lawyer, he answered with a shaky voice. Tell me this is fixable, he begged. Tell me she talked to me, the lawyer sighed. Liam, you violated several domestic safety statutes. The restraining order is serious. And with Jonathan Hayes involved, this is no longer a simple marital dispute. It's a public scandal. I didn't mean to hurt her, Liam said, choking on the words. I lost control. It was one moment. It was caught on camera, the lawyer replied. And so was what the mistress said to her. Public perception is damning. Liam sank onto a crate, running his hands over his face. I need to apologize. I need to tell Ava I'm sorry. You legally cannot, the lawyer said, not even through a letter. Then what am I supposed to do? Focus on cooperating, the lawyer said. It's your only chance of reducing long-term consequences. The call ended, leaving Liam in silence. On the other side of the city, Ava was sipping warm tea when a member of the tower security team knocked gently on her door. Jonathan looked up. "Yes, so your legal team is ready with the next phase." "Thank you," Jonathan said. "I'll be there shortly." When the guard left, Ava looked at her father anxiously. "What next phase?" He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "Ava, I want to ensure your future is protected financially, legally, emotionally, everything Liam had access to. Every account, every property, every privilege was tied to our family. Now all of that is reverting back to you." Ava blinked. "To me?" "Yes," Jonathan said. "You earned it by enduring him, and your child deserves stability." Ava shook her head softly. "I don't care about the money, I just want peace." Jonathan smiled faintly. "Money gives peace and protection and options." She hesitated. Will the media leave me alone?" "They will," Jonathan assured. "I've already issued a statement that you're resting under medical care and won't be responding to any inquiries." She exhaled gratefully. "Thank you." Later that evening, as the sun set behind the opera house, Jonathan attended a confidential meeting in one of the tower's private conference rooms. His advisors outlined the latest developments: Liam's collapse in business standing, Charlotte's public apology attempt rejected by most of her brand partners, and the rapid decline of Liam's investor trust. "He's financially vulnerable now," one advisor said. "He's lost nearly everything." "Good," Jonathan said calmly. "But we are not finished." While Jonathan prepared the next steps, Ava was visited by a therapist, a gentle woman with kind eyes. They spoke quietly about trauma, betrayal, healing, and future motherhood. For the first time in days, Ava felt a strange sense of release. "You're going to be okay," the therapist assured her. "You survived something deeply painful, and now you're in a safe environment surrounded by support." Ava touched her belly. "I just want her to grow up in a home without fear." "She will," the therapist said warmly. "And you will too." After the session, Ava walked slowly toward the window, staring at the glowing harbor. She felt a stir inside her, the faintest hint of hope. Meanwhile, Liam was on the verge of breaking. He went to his former office building, hoping to speak with someone, anyone, but the front desk denied him entry. He tried calling contacts, friends, colleagues. No one answered. By nightfall, he was sitting alone on a bench overlooking Darling Harbour, watching couples walk by, children laughing, tourists taking photos. Just days ago, he belonged to this world of luxury and comfort. Now he was invisible, unwanted, forgotten. He pressed his hands together tightly. "I need to make this right," he whispered. "Please, just give me a chance." But chance was no longer in his hands, not after what he had done. That same night, Jonathan returned to Ava's suite. She was awake, curled up with a blanket, watching the lights dance across the water. He sat beside her quietly. "I spoke to your medical team," he said. "They'd believe you'd recover more peacefully if you spend some time at the retreat house in Byron Bay. It's private, quiet, surrounded by nature. Security will be there. A doctor will visit every day." Ava looked at him. "Do you think it'll help?" Jonathan nodded. "I do, and you deserve somewhere peaceful after everything you've endured." She rested her head on his shoulder. "Then yes, I want to go." Jonathan wrapped an arm around her. "Good, we'll leave in 2 days." And as the city buzzed below them, as headlines continued to spread, as reputations crumbled and futures shifted, Ava allowed herself for the first time in months to imagine the possibility of a new beginning. The next morning, a soft golden light filled the suite as Ava woke to the quiet rhythm of Sydney Harur outside her window. She stretched slowly, mindful of the pregnancy, and felt the baby shift gently beneath her hand. For the first time in days, she didn't feel panic rising in her throat. She felt still fragile, but still. A nurse entered to check her vitals, smiling warmly. "You're improving," she said. "Your blood pressure stabilized overnight. Rest is helping." Ava nodded gratefully. When the nurse left, Jonathan stepped in carrying a small bag. "I brought you some things from your apartment," he said gently. "Comfortable clothes, your favorite lotion." And he held up a small plush koala. Ava let out a shaky laugh. "The one I put in the nursery?" "Yes," Jonathan said. "I thought you'd want it near you." Ava held the plush toy close to her chest, feeling emotion swell inside her. "Thank you." Jonathan sat beside her. "How did you sleep?" "Better," she said softly. "I didn't dream about Thumb," Jonathan exhaled. "Good, that will happen less and less as you heal." Meanwhile, across the city, Liam woke in the cheap hotel bed, drenched in sweat, heart pounding. Nightmares had clawed him. On the balcony floor, the sound of a crying the moment he turned away, he sat up and pressed his hands against his temples. "I have to fix this," he muttered. "I have to," but each attempt he made forced him deeper into reality. His bank still displayed frozen accounts. Emails bounced back. Business partners had removed his access. News alerts continued to explode across the screen. Public outrage grows as new footage emerges. Mistress seen taunting pregnant woman. Legal action confirmed by Hayes' family. His name was everywhere for all the wrong reasons. He felt sick. He grabbed his jacket and left the room, heading for the street, desperate to breathe. But as soon as he stepped out, a reporter spotted him. Liam Hayes, do you have anything to say about the accusations?" Cameras flashed. Liam raised his hands, panicked. "No comment, please. Did you really strike your wife? Did your mistress assault her during a medical emergency? Did CEO Jonathan Hayes destroy your business? Do you regret your actions?" Liam stumbled backward, overwhelmed. Security from the hotel intervened and ushered him inside. but not before the cameras captured his pale, frantic expression. Within minutes, the footage was online. At Carter Tower, Jonathan's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, saw the viral clip, and handed the phone to Ava without speaking. She watched Liam shaking in front of reporters. Her heart twisted unexpectedly, painfully. She wasn't ready for forgiveness, but she couldn't ignore the grief of seeing the man she once loved looking like a broken shadow of himself. Jonathan watched her carefully. "What are you thinking?" he asked. I don't know," she whispered. "I don't want him near me. I don't want him in my life." But seeing him like that, Jonathan took a hand gently. "Compassion is not weakness. You are allowed to feel." Ava nodded, tears gathering in her eyes. Will he be okay?" Jonathan sighed deeply. "That depends on him and the choices he makes from here." As Ava absorbed his words, Jonathan's assistant entered the room. "So, the Byron Bay property is fully prepared. Security is already stationed on site." "Medical staff will arrive shortly after Ms. Hayes." Jonathan nodded. "Good. We leave tomorrow morning." Ava looked at the view outside. A sweeping expanse of the harbor glowing under the midday sun. "I think getting away will help." "It will," Jonathan said. "Nature heals in ways cities can't." Meanwhile, at the hotel, Liam sat trembling on the edge of the bed. His lawyer called again. "Liam," the lawyer said, voice low, "there's more." "More?" Liam whispered, terrified. "The custody arrangement." "Jonathan has filed preemptive documents protecting both Ava and the child. If you violate the restraining order, you'll lose all parental rights." Liam felt his chest cave in. "But I want to be a father," he choked. "I want to make things right." "Then don't violate the order. Get help. Show the courts that you're trying to improve your mental state. That's your only chance." Liam hung up, his hands shaking uncontrollably. He pressed his forehead against the wall and cried for the first time in years. Deep guttural sobs. At Carter Tower, Ava's therapist returned for another session. They spoke about emotional trauma, self-worth, healing, and the changes that come with motherhood. "You're entering a new life chapter," the therapist said. "Your body and your heart are both transforming, and you're doing it after immense pain." Ava wiped her eyes. "I just want my daughter to be born into peace." "She will," the therapist said gently, "because you're choosing peace." Now, after the session, Ava walked slowly to the balcony with Jonathan's help. The warm Sydney air brushed against her skin. She breathed deeply, grounding herself. Jonathan stood beside her. "Do you feel ready for Byron Bay?" he asked. She whispered, "I need distance from everything here." "Then distance is exactly what you'll have." That evening, the city glowed with lights as Ava packed a few belongings, soft clothes, baby items, the small plush koala. She sat on the bed, staring at the nursery corner prepared for her. She touched the tiny blanket folded neatly beside the crib. "I'm sorry you had to feel everything," she whispered to the baby. "But Mom is going to make sure the world you arrive in is safe." As she settled under the covers, Jonathan checked her door one last time before stepping out. "Good night, sweetheart," he said. "Rest well. Tomorrow starts a new chapter." Ava smiled softly. "Good night, Dad." The lights dimmed. The tower grew quiet, and far across the city, Liam lay awake, tormented by memories he couldn't outrun, each one reminding him of the life he had destroyed with his own hands. But destiny had already shifted. And as the moon rose over Sydney, only one truth remained. Ava's world was healing. Liam's was collapsing. And the true reckoning was still ahead. The next morning, a soft golden light filled the suite as Ava woke to the quiet rhythm of Sydney Harur outside her window. She stretched slowly, mindful of her pregnancy, and felt the baby shift gently beneath her hand. For the first time in days, she didn't feel panic rising her throat. She felt still, fragile, but still. A nurse entered to check her vitals, smiling warmly. "You're improving," she said. "Your blood pressure stabilized overnight. Rest is helping." Ava nodded gratefully. When the nurse left, Jonathan stepped in carrying a small bag. "I brought you some things from your apartment." He said gently, "Comfortable clothes, your favorite lotion," and he held up a small plush koala. Ava let out a shaky laugh. "The one I put in the nursery." "Yes," Jonathan said. "I thought you'd want it near you." Ava held the plush toy close to her chest, feeling emotion swell inside her. "Thank you." Jonathan sat beside her. "How did you sleep?" "Better," she said softly. "Just thinking." "I know," he murmured. "These things don't disappear overnight." Ava looked down. "I keep wondering why wasn't I enough for him?" Jonathan's jaw tightened slightly, but he kept his voice gentle. "Ava, listen to me. A man who betrays a woman during her most vulnerable moment says more about himself than about her. He chose selfishness. He chose cruelty. You didn't fail." "He did." Ava blinked away tears. "It still hurts. Of course it does." "Jonathan said you loved him." She nodded. "I thought he loved me too." Jonathan exhaled softly. "Real love doesn't humiliate. It doesn't hit. It doesn't abandon you on the floor while his mistress mocks you. What you experienced wasn't love. It was manipulation and weakness disguised as affection." Ava wiped her cheeks. "Do you think I'll ever feel normal again?" Jonathan offered her a soft smile. "Yes, because you're stronger than you realize, and soon you'll feel more free than you felt in years." Meanwhile, across Sydney, Liam wandered the streets in a haze. He barely recognized the city around him, the same city he used to dominate with confident strides into high-end restaurants, private clubs, and penthouses with panoramic views. Now he felt like a ghost drifting through a world that no longer belonged to him. He walked past a newsstand and froze. His face was plastered across a headline: "Husband abandons pregnant wife during medical emergency." Mistress laughs. He reached out with a trembling hand and picked up the paper, his chest tightening. The article mentioned Ava's hospitalization and Jonathan Hayes' immediate actions. It pointed to the footage recorded at the Gold Coast party, footage that had already gone viral. Liam dropped the newspaper as if it burned him. Panic clawed at his throat. He stepped into a small alley, leaned against the wall, and pressed his fist to his forehead. "What have I done?" he whispered. Every lie he had told, every promise he had broken, every cruel what he had thrown at Ava hit him all at once, crushing him. His phone buzzed. He checked the screen. It was his lawyer. He answered with a shaky voice. "Tell me this is fixable," he begged. "Tell me she talked to me," the lawyer sighed. "Liam, you violated several domestic safety statutes. The restraining order is serious. And with Jonathan Hayes involved, this is no longer a simple marital dispute. It's a public scandal." "I didn't mean to hurt," Liam said, choking on the words. "I lost control. It was one moment." "It was caught on camera," the lawyer replied. "And so was what the mistress said to her. Public perception is damning." Liam sank onto a crate, running his hands over his face. "I need to apologize. I need to tell Ava I'm sorry." "You legally cannot," the lawyer said. "Not even through a letter? Then what am I supposed to do?" "Focus on cooperating," the lawyer said. "It's your only chance of reducing long-term consequences?" The call ended, leaving Liam in silence. On the other side of the city, Ava was sipping warm tea when a member of the tower security team knocked gently on her door. Jonathan looked up. "Yes, so your legal team is ready with the next phase." "Thank you," Jonathan said. "I'll be there shortly." When the guard left, Ava looked at her father anxiously. "What next phase?" He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "Ava, I want to ensure your future is protected financially, legally, emotionally, everything Liam had access to. Every account, every property, every privilege was tied to our family. Now all that is reverting back to you." Ava blinked to me. "Yes," Jonathan said. "You earned it by enduring him, and your child deserves stability." Ava shook her head softly. "I don't care about the money. I just want peace." Jonathan smiled faintly. "Money gives peace and protection and options." She hesitated. "Will the media leave me alone?" "They will," Jonathan assured. "I've already issued a statement that you're resting under medical care and won't be responding to any inquiries." She exhaled gratefully. Later that evening, as the sun set behind the Opera House, Jonathan attended a confidential meeting in one of the tower's private conference rooms. His advisors outlined the latest developments. Liam's collapse in business standing. Charlotte's public apology attempt rejected by most of her brand partners, and the rapid decline of Liam's investor trust. Is financially vulnerable now. One advisor said he's lost nearly everything. "Good," Jonathan said calmly, "but we are not finished." While Jonathan prepared the next steps, Ava was visited by a therapist, a gentlewoman with kind eyes. They spoke quietly about trauma, betrayal, healing, and future motherhood. For the first time in days, Ava felt a strange sense of release. "You're going to be okay," the therapist assured her. "You survived something deeply painful, and now you're in a safe environment surrounded by support." Ava touched her belly. "I just want her to grow up in a home without fear." "She will," the therapist said warmly, "and you will too." After the session, Ava walked slowly toward the window, staring at the glowing harbor. She felt a stir inside her, the faintest hint of hope. Meanwhile, Liam was on the verge of breaking. He went to his former office building, hoping to speak with someone, anyone, but the front desk denied him entry. He tried calling contacts friend colleagues. No one answered. By nightfall, he was sitting alone on a bench overlooking Darling Harbor, watching couples walk by, children laughing, tourists taking photos. Just days ago, he belonged to this world of luxury and comfort. Now he was invisible, unwanted, forgotten. He pressed his hands together tightly. "I need to make this right," he whispered. "Please, just give me a chance." But chance was no longer in his hands, not after what he had done. That same night, Jonathan returned to Ava's suite. She was awake, curled up with a blanket, watching the lights dance across the water. He sat beside her quietly. "I spoke to your medical team," he said. "They believe you'd recover more peacefully if you spend some time at the retreat house in Byron Bay." "It's private, quiet, surrounded by nature. Security will be there. A doctor will visit every day." Ava looked at him. "Do you think it'll help?" Jonathan nodded. "I do, and you deserve somewhere peaceful after everything you've endured." She rested her head on his shoulder. "Then, yes, I want to go." Jonathan wrapped an arm around her. "Good, we'll leave in 2 days." And as the city buzzed below them, as headlines continued to spread, as reputations crumbled and futures shifted, Ava allowed herself for the first time in months to imagine the possibility of a new beginning. Night settled heavy over Sydney, the streets glowing beneath the amber haze of streetlights as Liam paced outside the hotel where he had spent the last 2 nights. His breath came in tight, unsteady bursts. He shouldn't be here. He shouldn't even be outside after dark with so many reporters hunting him like a wounded animal. But Guild had its own gravity and it was dragging him somewhere dangerous. He pulled out his phone, dozens of missed calls, hundreds of messages. Some from old colleagues cutting ties, others from strangers spitting venom. And a single thread, one he had reread so many times the words were burned into him. The last message Ava ever sent him. "Please stop. I don't feel well." He closed his eyes, fist shaking. He had ignored her. He had chosen someone else. He had destroyed her. And now, as silence felt like a punishment, he wasn't sure he could survive. Across the state in Byron Bay, Abe awoke to a soft rain tapping against the windows of the retreat house. The sound was gentle, rhythmic, almost musical. She lay in bed for a moment, feeling the baby roll lazily beneath her ribs. She breathed out softly. No panic, no sharp memories, no voice raising her, no hands grabbing her, just calm. Jonathan knocked lightly before entering. "Good morning," he said, carrying a tray. "I brought breakfast." Ava smiled faintly. "You don't have to wait on me, I know," he replied. "But I want to—" He placed a tray on her lap. Fresh berries, warm toast, and a small pot of tea. Steam curling upward like hope made visible, Ava looked around the quiet room. "It still feels unreal, peaceful, like it's not mine." "It is yours," Jonathan said. "You don't have to suffer to earn calm. You deserve this." Ava nodded, tears shining but not falling. "Will it ever stop hurting?" "Yes," Jonathan said. "Pain fades, and what stays is what you rebuild from it." As she ate, Jonathan explained that the legal team was progressing. "Everything's moving quickly," he said. "We are securing full custody protections and relocating any remaining assets into your name." Ava hesitated. "Will Liam fight it?" Jonathan sighed. "Liam isn't in a position to fight anything right now. His world is collapsing." A small part of her, still soft despite everything, whispered, "I didn't want him to fall this far." But another part, stronger now, whispered back, "You didn't push him. He jumped." Back in Sydney, Liam rode a train to Central Station, head down, hood up. The carriage felt suffocating. Every vibration under the wheels, a reminder that he no longer controlled anything in his life. He got off near the old townhouse he once shared with Ava. The windows were dark, the rooms empty. He stood outside in the rain, staring at the place where they once planned nurseries and Sunday brunches and baby names. He murmured to no one, "I ruined everything." A neighbor across the street recognized him and stepped outside. "You should leave," the man said sharply. "Your wife deserved peace." Liam lowered his head. "I know you didn't care about her before," the man snapped. "Why care now?" Liam's voice faltered. "Because I see what I did. Too late." The neighbor's anger didn't soften. "Then walk away." "For once in your life, walk away." Liam nodded. Unable to argue, unable to justify, unable to breathe. He walked to the corner, leaning against a telephone pole, rain soaking through his clothes. He wanted to call Ava just once to tell her he was sorry, to tell her she didn't deserve a single second of pain he caused her. But the restraining order shone like a wall between them. He whispered into the rain, "I just need to see her one more time just to apologize. Then I'll disappear." He didn't know someone was watching him from across the street, a journalist. Phone raised, recording. The video of Liam crying in the rain hit social media within minutes. By noon, it had hit millions of views, and by early afternoon, it had reached Jonathan's legal team. Jonathan received a clip while Ava was asleep for a midday rest. He watched silently as Liam collapsed onto the wet pavement, hands covering his face, gasping for breath. The comments burned across the screen. Too late to cry. He made his bed. Where was this sadness when she needed him? He deserves worse. Jonathan locked the phone and closed his eyes. He didn't want Ava to see this. Not now, not while she was finally stabilizing. When she woke, they took a short walk along the cliffs, the wind lifting her hay. She closed her eyes, letting the ocean's roar fill her senses. "Dad," she asked quietly, "do you think he regrets it?" "Yes," Jonathan said, "but regret doesn't erase harm." Ava nodded slowly. "I don't want him in my life. But I don't want him ruined either." Jonathan stopped walking. He turned to Ho and placed his hands gently on her shoulders. "Ava, a man who hurts a pregnant woman, emotionally or physically, ruins himself. Not because of revenge, not because of consequences, but because he showed the world exactly who he is." Ava swallowed hard. "I'm trying to be strong." "You are," Jonathan said, "more than you know." They continued walking as storm clouds gathered far on the horizon. Ava felt the first drops of rain and looked toward the darkening sky. "I feel like something's coming," she whispered. Jonathan glanced at the incoming storm. "So do I." And miles away, driven by heartbreak, desperation, and the illusion that closure could save him, Liam boarded a northbound bus. Destination, Byron Bay. He had no idea what crossing that line would cost him, but fate did, and it was already waiting. The bus rattled through the night as Liam stayed out through the fog window, watching the dark countryside roll past. He hadn't slept in nearly 24 hours. His eyes were hollow, his clothes damp, and his thoughts churned like a storm trapped inside his skull. Every mile between Sydney and Byron Bay felt like a confession he wasn't ready to make. He clutched a folded photo in his hand, one taken on the day he and Ava found out the baby's gender. He remembered how she had cried, overwhelmed and glowing, how she had held the ultrasound picture like it was the most precious thing she'd ever touched. He remembered how she looked at him then, as if he was still her hero, as if he could protect her, as if he would never let anything hurt her. The memory stabbed through him. "I need to tell her I'm sorry," he whispered to himself. Just once. But he had no idea that his journey was about to collide violently with a force far more powerful than guilt. Because Jonathan Hayes was already waiting. At sunrise in Byron Bay, Abe awoke to a soft metallic chime. The sound of her private security system resetting. She blinked slowly, then sat up in bed, stretching gently as you place a hand over her belly. The baby moved in response, distracting her with a flutter that felt like a tiny wave beneath her skin. Jonathan knocked on the door. "Can I come in?" "Yes," Ava said softly. He entered with a warm smile and a tray of breakfast. "Your doctor is arriving in about 2 hours. We'll do a full check to make sure your stress levels have stabilized." Ava nodded, biting into a slice of toast. "I feel calm here, like I can breathe." "That's the point," Jonathan said. "A home doesn't heal you unless it protects you." But even as he spoke, his phone vibrated. He glanced at the Cola ID and his expression tightened just slightly, so subtly that Ava didn't notice. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Yes," Jonathan answered gently. "Nothing you need to worry about." He stepped out into the hallway and answered the call quietly. "Talk to me," his head of security replied. "So, we have a situation." Jonathan's jaw flexed. "What kind of situation?" "Someone boarded a bus in Sydney headed toward Byron Bay. We believe it's Liam Hayes." Jonathan closed his eyes. "How long until arrival?" "Approximately 3 hours," the guard said, "but we can intercept." Jonathan didn't hesitate. "Do it." No contact with Ava, no warnings, no confrontation. "Remove him from the route and send him back." "Yes, sir." Jonathan hung up, a coldness settling over him. He would not allow Liam within 100 kilometers of his daughter. Not now, not ever, but on the bus, Liam's fate shifted again. A police checkpoint. The vehicle slowed to a stop on the lonely highway where 2 patrol cars waited with lights off but purpose clear. A uniformed officer boarded the bus, checking each passenger's ID. Liam's heart began to pound. "Identification, please," the officer said as a line of passengers reached him. Liam's fingers trembled as he handed over his license. The officer looked at the name. His entire posture changed. A second officer appeared beside him. "So, can you come with us?" Liam felt the bottom of his stomach drop. "Why? What happened?" "Step outside," the officer repeated firmly. Passengers stayed, whispered, pulled out phones. Liam's panic played. "I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just trying to now." He stood and walked shakily down the aisle. Rain had started falling outside, soft and cold. The moment his feet hit the gravel, an unmarked car rolled up behind the police vehicles. A man in a dark suit stepped out. Not a policeman, not a government official. "One of Jonathan's private enforcers?" Liam's voice broke. "I just want to apologize, that's all. I'm not here to hurt anyone." The man didn't respond. He simply nodded at the officers. The officers stepped forward. "Mr. Hayes, under the terms of your domestic safety order, you are being removed from the area. You cannot continue toward Byron Bay." Liam trembled violently. "Please, please, I need to just talk to her. 5 minutes, 1 minute, I just want to say I'm sorry." The private enforcer stepped closer, his face blank but firm. "Your apology is not required, nor is it welcome. And legally, you cannot approach her." "I love her," Liam whispered. "You should have shown that," the man replied coolly before the cameras were rolling. Liam's breath shattered. "Where am I supposed to go?" "Away," the enforcer said. "Anywhere but near." The officers escorted Liam into the back of a police vehicle. As the car pulled away, Liam pressed his forehead against the cold glass. The bus drove off without him. His chance, however, misguided, disappeared on that highway. He had lost the right to speak to her long ago. Back in Byron Bay, Ava spent the morning with a doctor who reassured her that the baby was healthy and strong. Her blood pressure had come down, her stress levels had improved, she was stabilizing beautifully. But as the doctor left, Ava noticed something about Jonathan's expression, a shadow, a tension, a secret he was holding tightly. She stepped closer. "Dad, is something wrong?" Jonathan hesitated. And for the first time, just for a second, she saw a crack in his composure. "It's nothing you need to worry about, sweetheart," he said gently. "Dad," Ava whispered, voice trembling. "Please don't protect me with silence. I've had enough secrets for a lifetime." Jonathan's eyes warmed with pride and sorrow. She wasn't a fragile daughter he had rescued weeks ago. She was rebuilding. And the truth was coming for both of them. Jonathan exiled. "A situation came up, but it's being handled." "What kind of situation?" She insisted softly. Jonathan looked out toward the rain-soaked cliffs. "Liam tried to come here." Ava's heart stopped, and he won't be trying again. She swallowed hard, feeling her world shift once more, this time with a strange blend of fear, anger, and tragic sadness. "He really came," she whispered. Jonathan nodded. "Yes, and he was intercepted long before he got close." Ava wrapped her arms around herself, breathing shakily. "I didn't want to see him, but I didn't want him destroyed." Jonathan stepped closer and placed a gentle hand on her cheek. "He destroyed himself, Ava, long before today." Thunder rumbled over the ocean, and somewhere, far from Barren Bay, Liam sat alone with nothing but the echo of his mistakes, realizing that for the first time in his life he had no power left at all. A cold wind swept through the cliffs of Byron Bay that evening, carrying the scent of distant rain and the wisp of the ocean crashing against the shore. Ava stood on the balcony of the retreat house, wrapped in a soft blanket, watching the horizon fade from gold to purple. The sky looked endless, vast, powerful, untouched. She envied it. Jonathan stepped outside quietly, sliding the glass door open. "You should come in soon," he said gently. "It's getting colder." Ava didn't look at him. Her gaze stayed fixed on the dimming horizon. "I keep thinking about him," she whispered. "Not because I want him back, but because I can't understand how someone changes so fast." Jonathan hesitated before answering. "People don't change suddenly," he said. "They reveal themselves gradually. You just didn't want to see it." Ava swallowed hard. "I thought love made people better." Jonathan stepped closer. "Love can, but only when the person wants to grow." Liam didn't want to grow. He wanted control, attention, validation, not partnership. A tease slipped down Aya's cheek. "I don't love him anymore," she whispered, "but I remember the version of him I fell for. And I hate that she feels like a lie." Jonathan reached out and gently wiped her tear away. "The version you loved was real." "It just wasn't all of him," Ava nodded slowly, her breathing unsteady. "It hurts." Jonathan pulled her into his arms and she let herself lean into him, letting the wind brush past them both. Healing hurts, he murmured. But you're doing it. Hours later, while Ava slept, Jonathan sat downstairs in the dim-lit study, reviewing documents spread across a desk. Custody protections, property transfers, legal safeguards, financial restorations. His family was a fortress, one he had built from the ground up with relentless discipline and unforgiving strategy. And he would use every brick of that fortress to protect his daughter. His phone buzzed. A message from security. Hayes has been returned to Sydney. He is not resisting. He appears unstable but nonviolent. No further attempts expected tonight. Jonathan leaned back in his J, exhaling slowly. He locked the phone and closed his eyes. Liam had made his choice months ago. Tonight simply carved the consequences in stone. He turned off the lamp and left the room, the house falling silent around him. In Sydney, Liam stepped out of the police vehicle in front of the same cheap hotel he'd left hours earlier. The rain had stopped, but the pavement still glistened as if the sky had cried for him. The officer who escorted him out gave him one last warning. You go near her again, you're done? Understand? Liam nodded silently. The car drove away. He stood under the flickering sign of the hotel entrance, shaking from exhaustion and fear. His mother's voice echoed in his head. If you want redemption, become the man she thought you were. He muttered weakly, I'm trying. But the truth was cruel. Trying didn't erase damage. Trying didn't undo betrayal. Trying didn't heal wounds he caused. He stumbled to his room and collapsed onto the coal bed, staring at the stained ceiling. In the darkness, memories flickered one by one. Ava laughing in the kitchen. Ava holding pregnancy test results with trembling joy. Ava falling onto the balcony floor, clutching her stomach while he turned away, choosing another woman over her agony. He covered his face with both hands. What have I done? He whispered, voice cracking. There was no one to answer. Back in Byron Bay, Ava woke from a restless sleep. She slipped quietly out of bed and walked to the window, watching the moon reflected on the wet earth below. She placed a hand on her belly, feeling the baby shift lazily. I promise I'll protect you, she whispered. I promise you'll never feel what I felt. She didn't realize she was crying until the tears reached the chin. She wiped them away just as Jonathan appeared at the doorway. You're awake, he said softly. She nodded, couldn't sleep. He joined her at the window. Do you want to talk about it? Ava hesitated. If he came all the way here, does that mean he still loves me, or is it just guilt? Jonathan didn't answer immediately. He stared at the moonlight cliffs before speaking carefully. Guilt makes men desperate, he said. Love makes them better. Which of those describes him? Ava closed her eyes and she knew. She finally knew. She opened them again, stronger this time. I don't want him in our lives, she said quietly. Not mine? Not my daughter's? Jonathan nodded, a flicker of pride in his eyes. Then that's how it will be. He guided her back to bed and stayed with her until she drifted into a deeper, steadier sleep. At sunrise, Jonathan received another call, one that chilled him. His head of security said, So you should know, the press found out Liam tried to reach Byron Bay. A reporter is tracking him. They are trying to provoke another incident to make the story explode. Jonathan's expression hardened like steel. Keep them away from Ava, and if a reporter approaches his property, we'll handle it. Jonathan hung up, anger simmering beneath his controlled exterior. Trauma wasn't enough for the media. They wanted spectacle, they wanted blood, and they would not get it from his daughter. He stepped outside, the early light washing over him. He looked toward A's window, where she still slept peacefully, unaware of the storm gathering miles away. But storms, once formed, do not simply disappear, they evolve. They find a path. And one of those paths, whether any of them realize it, was leading straight toward Byron Bay, toward Ava, toward truth, toward the moment everything would break open. Because secrets, guilt, and unresolved pain never stay silent forever. And the silence was about to shatter. The next morning, Byron Bay glowed beneath a soft sunrise, light spilling across the ocean like warm silk. But inside the retreat house, the mood was different. Heavier, tense in a quiet, almost invisible way. Ava sat at the kitchen table stirring a cup of tea. She was too distracted to drink. Her eyes were puffy from lack of sleep, and she kept glancing toward the large windows overlooking the cliffs, as if expecting something or someone to appear on the horizon. Jonathan entered, pausing when he saw her expression. "You're thinking about him again," he said gently. Ava nodded, not bothering to hide it. "I just keep replaying it. The fact that he came all the way here," her voice wavered. "It scares me and it breaks my heart at the same time." Jonathan took a slow seat across from her. "Ava, men don't travel across states because they've changed. They do it because they've lost control." Ava swallowed. "Do you think he came to hurt me?" Jonathan hesitated for the briefest moment, then shook his head. "No, I think he came for closure he doesn't deserve." Exiled shakily, relief and sorrow mixing inside her. "I didn't want him hurt. I didn't want him destroyed. I just wanted him gone." "And he is," Jonathan said firmly. "He will not come near you again." Ava nodded, wiping a tear from the corner of her eye. "Thank you." But even as those words left her lips, a knock sounded at the front door. Both of them stiffened. Jonathan rose instantly, signaling Ava to stay seated. She gripped her mug tightly, hard hammering, breath caught in her throat. Jonathan opened the door. An unformed officer stood outside. "A local Byron Bay police sergeant, Mr. Hayes," the officer asked. Jonathan's posture straightened. His tone became controlled, cold. "Yes, what is it?" "I'm here because there's been an incident." As breath folded, Jonathan's jaw tightened. "What kind of incident?" The officer glanced past him, noticing Ava in the kitchen. Then he lowered his voice instinctively. "It concerns Liam Hayes." Ava froze. Jonathan stepped outside and closed the door behind him. but Ava could still faintly hear the muffled conversation. Where is he? Sydney, what happened? Altercation with a photographer? Is he injured? Not seriously. Is he stable? Uncertain. Ava's hot clench, her mind began to spin with possibilities. Was it a fault? Had a silence pushed him into madness? Had the media had his own guilt? Jonathan re-entered slowly, closing the door behind him. Ava stood, trembling. Tell me, she whispered. Jonathan looked at her with a mixture of concern and frustration. Frustration knotted her, but fate for refusing to leave her alone. He was cornered by a journalist near Darling Harur last night, Jonathan said softly. There was a struggle. Police intervened, as hand covered her mouth. Is he okay? Yes, Jonathan said. He wasn't seriously hurt. Ava closed her eyes, but her shoulders sagged with conflicting emotion. Relief, sorrow, exhaustion. Why did this happen? She whispered. Jonathan stepped closer. Because his unraveling Ava actions have consequences and is drowning in his own. Ava sank into a chair. Will the media stop? Will they leave him alone? They won't as long as it's a spectacle, Jonathan said. And right now he's giving them more fuel than fire. She bowed her head. I wish he would disappear, not die, not suffer, just fade away from all this. Jonathan placed a hand on her back. He will. The world forgets quickly. But Ava wasn't convinced because something deep inside her, a soft, broken piece that still remembered his better days, whispered that the world would not forget Liam Hayes easily. Pain like his didn't dissolve. It erupted. Meanwhile, in Sydney, Liam sat in a small medical clinic with ice pressed to the side of his face. A bruise was forming along his jaw where the photographer's camera had struck him during the scuffle. He winced as the doctor pulled away. You're lucky it wasn't worse, she said. Do you need anything for the pain? Liam shook his head. No, I deserve it, the doctor frowned. No one deserves violence. But Liam couldn't believe that. Not anymore. He left the clinic quietly and walked along the harbor, limping slightly. The city felt colder than usual, colder than he remembered, colder than he deserved. People stayed, some whispered, a few pointed. A little boy tugged his mother's sleeve. Mom, isn't it the bad man from the news? Liam's chest tightened so hard he could barely breathe. He kept walking. He didn't know where he was going. He didn't have a home anymore, didn't have a job, didn't have respect, didn't have love. He only had the weight of everything he'd broken. He stopped at the edge of the pew, looking out at the dark waves rolling beneath the wooden planks. I'm sorry, Ava, he whispered. I'm so sorry. His voice cracked so violently it echoed across the water. In Byron Bay, Ava spent the afternoon indoors, wrapped in blankets, staring at the slow movements of the ocean. Clouds gathered overhead, heavy and gray. A storm was forming far out at sea. Jonathan entered quietly. How's your blood pressure up? Ava admitted, my heart won't stop racing. The doctor will come by again later, Jonathan assured. We'll make sure you and the baby stay safe. Ava nodded, but her fingers trembled. Jonathan sat beside her. Tell me what's on your mind. Ava hesitated. I don't want him in my life, but I don't want him destroyed either. I don't want him chased, cornered, beaten by the world. Jonathan's voice was calm. The world isn't punishing him, Ava. He's facing the consequences of his own choices. But is still a person, Ava whispered. He is still the father of my child. Jonathan paused. He hadn't expected that answer. Not now, not after everything. Ava continued, her voice steadier than she felt. I don't love him anymore. I don't want him back, but I don't want him dead inside either. Jonathan exhaled deeply, tension leaving his shoulders. Then maybe you're more healed than you think. Ava rested her head against the back of the couch. Do you think he still cares about me? Jonathan looked into his daughter's tired, fragile eyes, and he told her the truth. Yes, I think he does. But caring isn't enough, not after what he did. Ava nodded slowly, accepting the truth even though it burned. Thunder echoed in the distance. A storm was coming, and storms had a way of exposing everything people tried to hide. In Sydney, Liam sat alone at the pier for hours as the sky darkened. He didn't notice the cold, didn't notice the people walking past him. Didn't notice the lights turning on across the city. He only noticed one thing: he had nothing left. And when a reporter approached him with a microphone, demanding an interview, something shattered inside him. He pushed the microphone away hard. It fell into the water. The reporter shouted in outrage. People grabbed their phones. A crowd formed. And Liam Hayes finally tragically snapped. In Byron Bay, Ava suddenly placed a hand on her belly. She's kicking, she said, smiling weakly. Jonathan smiled too. She's reminding you that life is still happening, Ava nodded, but she felt something else deep inside her chest. A tightening, a warning, a sense that something was about to break. Dad, she whispered. I feel like something is coming. Jonathan looked at her with concern. Whatever comes, he said softly. You won't face it alone. But neither of them knew that in Sydney, a storm far darker than the clouds above Byron Bay was about to erupt, and its shock waves would reach them sooner than anyone expected. The storm hit Sydney long before it reached Byron Bay, when whipped across the harbor, bending trees and lashing rain against shut windows as the city drowned under a furious sky. But Liam didn't move from where he sat on the edge of the peel. He didn't flinch when lightning split the heavens, didn't react when thunder rolled through the buildings like a roar from the earth itself. He was already inside a storm far worse. He stared at the dark water below, the waves crashing violently against the wooden beams. His clothes clung to him, soaked cold. His head dripped steady streams at mass, the tears falling down his face. His chest tightened painfully with every breath, like his ribs were squeezing the truth out of him. He whispered into the wind. Why did I do it? No answer came, not from the sky, not from the water, not from the world that had turned its back on him. A reporter, drenched and breathless, rushed toward him again. Liam Hayes, you just assaulted one of our crew. Do you have anything to say? A camera was shoved near his face. Liam pushed it away. Please just leave me alone. The reporter advanced again. Tell the public why you tried to break into Byron Bay. Were you planning another attack? No, Liam shouted, voice trembling. I just wanted to apologize. Then why run from police? The reporter snapped. Why push my microphone into the water? I didn't mean. Do you even care that your wife is terrified of you? Those words struck deeper than a weapon. Liam looked up, rain dripping from his lashes. I never meant to terrify her. Lightning slashed the sky. The reporter kept pressing. Are you a danger to her? To the child? Should the public be worried? Stop, Liam said, voice breaking. Should you be locked up? The reporter barked, jabbing the microphone toward him again, desperate for another viral clip. Something inside, Liam snapped. He shoved the microphone harder than he intended. The reporter stumbled backward, slipped on the wet pier, and crashed to the wooden boards. Phones came out instantly. Voices shouted. Someone screamed for security. Liam froze, horrified. He hadn't meant to push so hard. Hadn't meant to hurt anyone. Hadn't meant to prove everyone right. The reporter clutched his arm in pain. You lunatic. You're dangerous. People surrounded Liam, shouting, pointing, condemning. He backed away, trembling violently. I didn't. I'm sorry. I didn't mean, but the world wasn't listening and far away. Byron Bay remained oblivious to the chaos unraveling on the harbor. Awoke from a nap with a sharp cramp beneath her ribs. She inhaled sharply, pressing her hand against her belly. Jonathan rushed into the room instantly. What's wrong? He asked. She kicked harder than usual. Ava breathed, waiting for the pain to settle. I think I'm just tense. Jonathan sat beside her. You've been under a lot of stress. We'll have the doctor come early this evening. Ava nodded, brushing tears from her cheeks. I want her to be okay. I need her to be okay. She is, Jonathan reassured, because you're fighting for her. Ava leaned into him, taking comfort in his steady presence. They stay like that for a long, quiet moment. Outside, the storm clouds loomed closer, rolling across the horizon like a dark curtain. But peace never lasted long. Jonathan's phone buzzed. He lifted it and his expression changed. A microsecond of silence, a tightening in his jewel, a shadow crossing his eyes. Noticed instantly. Dad, what is it? Jonathan took a slow breath. He sat up straighter, gathering himself before speaking. There's been another incident, he said carefully. Ava felt her stomach drop with Liam. Yes. Ava gripped the bed sheets. Is he hurt? Jonathan hesitated. Not seriously, but he pushed a reporter on camera. Ava closed her eyes, pain and dread twisting inside her. Oh no, the media is amplifying it. Jonathan said they are painting him as unhinged, dangerous, violent. Ava shook her head. He's not dangerous. He's broken. Jonathan met her gaze. Broken men can cause the most damage, Ava, especially when guilt takes over logic. Ava looked toward the storm outside, watching the waves turn chaotic below the cliffs. "Does he know where I am?" she whispered. "No," Jonathan assured. "And he never will," but Ava wasn't convinced. Something deep inside her, an instinct shaped by fear, told her that the world wasn't done with them, that Liam's unraveling wasn't finished, that the story wasn't ending the way everyone hoped. "He came once," she murmured. "He tried to find me. What if he tries again?" Jonathan placed a hand on her shoulder. "He won't get near you, I promise." But Aya's hand trembled over her belly. "Promises don't stop people in pain," she whispered. "I know that now." Back in Sydney, police finally intervened at the Peel. Officers stepped between Liam and the raging crowd. "So you need to come with us." Liam held his hands up slowly. "I'm not resisting," but his eyes looked wild with despair. The officers escorted him away as flashes from phones illuminated the rain. A familiar voice called out behind him, "Liam." He turned. His mother stood at the edge of the Peel, soaked to the skin, tears mixing with rain. She rushed to him, cupping his face with shaking hands. "Oh my God, what's happening to you?" Liam broke right there in her arms. His entire body shook violently. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone," he sobbed. "I didn't mean to hurt her. I don't know who I am." His mother held him as tightly as she could. "We are going home. You're staying with me now." But as you led him away from Appel, away from cameras, away from chaos, something in Liam's expression shifted, a decision forming behind the T's, a resolution growing in the cracks of his despair. He whispered, barely audible, "I need to see her one last time." His mother froze. "Liam, no, you can't. It's the only way," he said, voice trembling. "I need to end this. All of it." His mother gripped his arm in fear. "If you go near her, you'll lose everything left." Liam stared out at the violent churning water. "Maybe that's a point," he whispered. Thunder cracked across the sky, and somewhere in Barren Bay, Ava felt a chill run down a spine so sharp she gasped. Her hand flew to her belly. Jonathan rushed to her side. "What is it?" Ava looked at him, eyes wide, heart pounding. "I don't know," she whispered. "But I feel like something bad just happened." Jonathan wrapped an arm around her, grounding her. "You're safe," he said firmly. But Ava wasn't sure if safety was enough anymore. Note when storms, literal and emotional, were closing in from every direction. And in Sydney, Liam Hayes took the first step toward a choice that would change all of their lives forever. Night descended over Byron Bay with an unsettling heaviness, as if the sky itself could sense the tension building beneath it. Wind lashed the tops of the eucalyptus trees surrounding the retreat house, and distant thunder rumbled like a warning no one could quite interpret. Ava sat curled up on the sofa, her hands resting protectively over her belly. The baby nudged softly beneath her palms. Slow, rhythmic movements that comforted her even as anxiety crept along the edges of her mind. Jonathan stood by the large window, arms crossed, eyes scanning the darkening horizon. His phone buzzed on the table beside him, lighting up the dim room. He picked it up and read the message silently. Ava watched him carefully. "Another update?" she asked. Jonathan nodded once, his expression unreadable. Liam's mother took him home. For now, his stable. For now, Ava echoed, her voice shaking slightly. She stayed down at her stomach. "I just want all of this to be over. I want to move forward." Jonathan approached and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "You will," he said soon. But Ava didn't feel convinced, not anymore. Something deep inside her, instinct sharpened by months of fear, kept whispering that the story wasn't done. She couldn't explain it, but she felt an emotional pressure building inside her chest, like a storm about to break open. "Dad," she said softly, "do you ever feel like peace can't last? Like something always comes to take it away?" Jonathan's gaze softened with painful familiarity. "Yes, but that feeling fades when you reclaim your life." "And that's exactly what you're doing." Ava leaned into him, but her heart still thudded with unease. In Sydney, Liam lay on the small couch in his mother's living room. The storm outside hammered against the windows when howling like an angry chorus around the house. His mother had fallen asleep in the armchair beside him, exhausted from worry, but Liam remained wide awake. His mind couldn't rest. He replayed everything. Ava collapsing on the balcony. Charlotte's cruel laughter. The look of fear in Ava's eyes. The footage of himself pushing a reporter. The shame that had consumed him in front of the cameras. He couldn't escape his own memory. Couldn't outrun the truth of who he had become. At 2 a.m., he stood and walked to the window. Lightning illuminated the yard, casting long shadows across the grass. He whispered, "I ruin everything." His mother stirred but didn't wake. Liam pressed his forehead against the cold glass. "I need her to be okay." He whispered, "Even if I never see her again." Silence settled around him, then so faint he almost missed it. His phone buzzed on the table behind him. A text message. He turned confused. No one had messaged him in days. He picked up the phone and the world seemed to tilt. It was from a private unknown number. For words cold, precise, delivered like a blade. "She's safer without you." Liam's blood went cold, his breath stilled. His hands began to shake uncontrollably. The number wasn't Avers. It wasn't his mother's, it wasn't a friend. It wasn't the police, but he recognized the tone, the threat. The intention, Jonathan. Liam stared at the message, panic swelling like a wave swallowing him whole. And then another message arrived for more words. "Do not try again." Liam's legs buckled. His heart hammered violently. He dropped into the nearest J, gripping the phone so tightly his knuckles went white. Jonathan's shadow reached foul. Jonathan's power was limitless. And Jonathan had decided Liam no longer had a place anywhere near Ava. A sob burst from his throat, raw and desperate. "I just wanted to apologize," he whispered. Just once, but even that was forbiddance. He felt the walls closing in, felt the trap around him, felt the consequences strangling him. He whispered, "I have nothing left." A sense of finality began to creep into his thoughts. Dark, hopeless, dangerous. Lightning lit the sky again. Thunder cracked so loudly the window rattled. And in that violent flash of white, Liam made a decision. A terrible, irreversible decision. In Byron Bay, Ava jolted awake in her bed, gasping for breath. Her heart pounded erratically, panic gripping her chest like a physical hand. The baby kicked hard, startled, distressed. Jonathan rushed into the room. "Ava, what's wrong?" She clutched her stomach. "Something feels wrong." "Are you hurting?" he asked urgently. "No," she said quickly. "Not physically, I don't know." One feel terrified. Jonathan sat beside her. "It's the anxiety." "Everything that's happened." "No," Ava said, shaking her head, eyes wide with fear. "It's not anxiety. Something's wrong. I can feel it." Jonathan tried to calm her. "Ava, you're safe. Liam is in Sydney. There are officers guarding the perimeter. Nothing can happen." But Ava's fear only grew. Her breathing quickened. Her hands trembled. "I feel like something broke," she whispered. "Like something snapped." Jonathan froze just for a second because he felt something too. A shift in the a heaven is creeping into the room. He stood abruptly and pulled out his phone, texting security. "Confirm immediate status on Hayes." A pause, then a response. "No movement at residence." Jonathan exiled slowly, but then another message appeared, unexpected, out of sequence, from the head of security. "So, Sydney police just reported." Jonathan's pulse spiked. The message continued. "Hayes left the residence an hour ago." "His location is unknown." Ava saw Jonathan's face drain of color. She gripped his wrist, terrified. "Dad, what happened?" Jonathan swallowed hard. "A storm is coming for us," he said softly. And outside, thunder roared over Byron Bay. Hours before dawn, the storm over Byron Bay reached its full violent fury. Rain hammered the coastline, wind tore through the trees, and thunder clapped so loudly it shook the glass panes of the retreat house. But inside Ava's suite, the storm felt distant, secondary to the rising dread pulsing through the air. Ava paced slowly, one hand on her belly, her breath shallow. Every instinct screamed that something was wrong, something imminent, something that had been building unnoticed. Like a crack in the foundation of her life, Jonathan stood the far end of the room. Phone pressed to his ear, issuing quiet but sharp commands. "Increase patrol." "Double the guard at the gate? Anyone suspicious?" "Detain immediately." His voice was calm, but the tension around his eyes betrayed him. Ava stopped pacing. "Dad, he's coming here, isn't he?" Jonathan didn't answer. She stepped closer. "Tell me the truth." Jonathan lowered the phone slowly for a long, agonizing moment. He simply looked at her, torn between honesty and protection. Finally, he exhaled. "Sydney police believe Liam is headed north. He left his house in the middle of the storm." "His car was caught on a highway camera near Kempe an hour ago, as breath hitched. He's halfway here." Jonathan nodded. "It doesn't guarantee anything, but we have to be prepared." A crash of thunder exploded outside so sharp Ava flinched. Jonathan reached for her shoulders. Listen to me, you are safe. I won't let anything happen to you or the baby. But Ava shook her head, tears gathering. You don't understand. I'm not afraid of him hurting me. Jonathan frowned. Then what? Her voice cracked. I'm afraid of what he might do to himself. Jonathan stilled. For months, Ava had feared Liam's anger, his volatility, his obsession, but now, for the first time, she feared his despair. The storm outside screamed. Liam's car hydroplaned as it turned off the highway onto the cliffside road leading toward Byron Bay. His knuckles were wide around the steering wheel. His eyes, bloodshot, hollow, stared into the sheets of rain, blurring his vision. He had driven for hours without stopping. His mind a chaotic storm of regret, fear, memories, and desperation. He whispered to himself, "Just let me see her just once, just to say I'm sorry." Lightning illuminated the cliffside. He gripped the wheel tighter. "I ruined everything," he said. "I destroyed everything." The final message from Jonathan echoed in his skull like a curse. "Do not try again." He blinked hard, tears mixing with the rain on his skin. "This is the last thing I'll ever ask," he whispered to the empty car. As he rounded the last curve toward the retreat road, thunder cracked directly overhead. The car jolted, skidded dangerously close to the edge. But Liam swerved just in time, tires screeching, heart pounding. He gasped for breath. Then the gates appeared ahead, and he realized this was as far as he would go. Two security SUVs blocked the entrance. Officers stood ready beneath the pounding rain. Liam slowed the car to a crawl. Then he stopped, engine idling. Rain slashing the windshield. He sat motionless. 1 minute to 3, then slowly, Liam put the car in park. He stepped out into the rain. The storm slammed against him instantly, soaking him to the bone. Sir, one guard shouted, "You need to turn back now." But Liam didn't move, didn't fight, didn't plead. He simply whispered, "Tell her I'm sorry." And then he sank to his knees in the mud, hands limp at his sides, head bowed. The gods exchanged bewildered looks. This wasn't a confrontation. This wasn't aggression. This wasn't a threat. This was surrender, complete, tragic, heartbreaking. One guard approached cautiously. "So, do you need help?" Liam didn't answer. His chest shuddered with a broken sob. "I just needed to know she's safe." Lightning illuminated him, collapsing under weight of his own choices. Inside the retreat house, Jonathan's phone buzzed sharply. He read the message. His expression changed. Ava saw instantly. "Is it him?" Jonathan hesitated. "Yes, where is he now?" Jonathan exhaled slowly. At the gate, Ava felt her knees weaken. Jonathan reached out and steadied her. She braced to the worst. "Is he trying to break in?" "No," Jonathan said quietly, on his knees. Ava froze, her breath caught. Her heartbeat slowed painfully. "He's not resisting," Jonathan added. "He's not asking for access. He's just sitting in the rain saying nothing." Ava covered her mouth with a trembling hand. Jonathan watched her closely. "Ava, do you want him removed from the property immediately?" Ava shook her head, not in forgiveness, not in longing, but in simple, humane recognition. "No," she whispered. "Just don't let him hurt himself." Jonathan's jaw tightened, but he nodded. He texted security, assure he is stable. No contact with Ava, transport him to hospital if needed. Ava sat on the edge of the bed, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. The baby kicked softly as if sensing a sadness. Jonathan knelt in front of her. "Ava, look at me. You did nothing wrong, nothing?" "His downfall isn't your responsibility." Ava nodded, though her chest still ached. "Does this make you feel unsafe?" Jonathan asked gently. Ava shook her head. "No, just sad. For him, for who he became." Jonathan exhaled, relief breaking through his worry. "That means you're healing." Ava looked out the window at the raging storm. "No," she said softly. "It means I'm letting go." At sunrise, the storm finally broke apart. Soft golden light spread across the coastline, illuminating the wet earth, the swaying trees, the glistening rooftops. Ava stood barefoot on the balcony, breathing the fresh, rain-washed air. The world felt quieter, softer, as if the chaos had finally released its grip. Jonathan joined her silently. "He is being driven to a clinic. He said he agreed to go." Ava nodded. "Will he be okay?" she asked. Jonathan placed a hand over hers. "He will eventually." A long silent stretch between them, peaceful, reflective. Then Ava whispered, "Dad, thank you for everything." Jonathan looked at her, at his daughter, strong again, holding a belly with steady hands, eyes clear despite all she'd endured. "You saved yourself," he said. "I only cleared the path," Ava smiled faintly. Small but real. The first true smile in months. 6 weeks later, Ava stood at the edge of the ocean in Noosa. Warm waves brushing her feet as the sun dipped low across the water, painting the sky in gold and lavender. She was visibly further along in her pregnancy now, glowing, peaceful, restored. Behind her, the new beachfront home Jonathan had gifted her stood tall and bright against the sky. A sanctuary, a fresh start, a future crafted with Her foam buzzed. A single notification, a legal update, restraining order approved. Full custody protection granted. Financial independence secured? Ava breathed in deeply. And then a small flutter, a soft kick, a reminder of the life growing within her. She whispered, "We are going to be okay." Her voice was serene, certain, hopeful, behind her. Jonathan stepped onto the sand carrying 2 mugs of tea. He handed one to her. "The world ahead of you is yours to shape now." Ava looked out at the horizon. "I'm ready," she said. Jonathan smiled. "Then let's begin." And together, father and daughter watched the sun rise over the new chapter of her life, peaceful, safe, and filled with the promise of healing. A chapter born not from the cruelty she survived, but from the strength she reclaimed.